Welcome back to the Hold the Space podcast. I am Coach Victoria, and we are back, guys. We are back for season 2, and I could not be any more excited. So, first thing that we're going to do is just give a special shout out to all of my guests that I had for season 1. They were all amazing, they were all brave, and I just cannot thank you enough for giving all that you had for season 1. I just wanted to give you a special thanks and a special shout out again. This is season 2. We are here. We are finally here. I did take a long break, but we are back better than ever. So this time, though, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're not focusing on motherless daughters. Prior to the end of last season, I did give you guys a little sneak peek of what we will be talking about in season 2. At first, I wanted to have guests on that have been in a toxic relationship and survived that toxic relationship and how they came through it and so on and so forth. Well, I changed my mind. So this time for season 2, we are going to be focusing on what leads most people to get into toxic relationship and stay in those toxic relationships. That's what the focus will be for this season. And we are going to learn some things. We're going to maybe sometimes we might get a little emotional. Sometimes we might get a little, upset because honestly, whenever we are talking about decisions that we've made for ourselves, things that we have allowed. Because at the end of the day, when we find ourselves in situations like this, we do have to look in the mirror and realize that a lot of things that we allow to happen are solely based on the decisions that we make, and whether it's rooted in fear, whether it's rooted in lack of knowledge, there's still decisions that we make, and we are responsible for where we are in life. So those things can be a little bit hard sometimes. And, so you may get a little bit upset. You may, feel a certain type of way. But at the end of the day, any topic that we talk about is to grow, to come out in a better position so that you can move forward and be happy, have inner peace and inner joy, and make those decisions that will lead you to a happier, healthier life. We're going to go ahead and get started. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to name 3 main reasons why we tend to stay in toxic relationships, or what leads us to get into a toxic relationship. And number 1 is lack of self-esteem or respect or self-love. All of that to me is packaged all into one. If you don't love yourself, you don't have any self-worth, or it's very low. If you don't love yourself or have self-worth, then you don't respect yourself. There's no way that you cannot have one and then have the other. So when you have no self-worth or low self-worth, no respect for yourself, no love for yourself, most of the time it's not as a result of something that you did. Generally, it's because we grow up and we did not receive the things that we needed to receive, the encouragement, the love, the affirmation, because honestly, we're supposed to get those things from our parents, our grandparents, the people that love us. They're supposed to affirm us, encourage us to love ourselves regardless of what may be going on, whether we wear glasses or whether we're a little chubby, whether we have little quirks or we're different from everybody else, and other people notice it. We're supposed to get those foundational tools as a child, which would encourage us and which would lead us to have more self worth, be more confident in those types of things as we're growing up. And as we get into young adulthood, it will be easier for us to be a more confident, self loving young adult so that we are less likely to get into those situations. And if you were raised that way, 9 times out of 10, when you do see those signs of toxicity, you nip it in the bud, or you run away really quickly, or don't stay as long as somebody that does not have self worth or self love or respect for themselves. Number 2, lack of boundaries. Now, all of these things that we talk about today tie into each other very, very much so. If you don't have one, then you probably don't have the other, like I said before. So, lack of boundaries goes right on in there with not having self worth, self love, respect. So, when you don't have those things, how are you setting boundaries? Sometimes we don't set boundaries because we feel like if we do set boundaries, then the person will leave. And honestly, that is what it's for. You want to set boundaries so that hopefully they respect the boundaries. But if not, then it weeds out those individuals that don't need to be in your life, because if they can't respect your boundary, they don't respect you, and therefore you need to cut ties. It's just as simple as that, but it is harder when you're in a relationship and you feel like this is this is it for you. You want to try to hold on, your attachments, all of those things are involved. So, and if you've never set boundaries before, because sometimes it's really hard. A lot comes with setting boundaries. You have to be really, really disciplined when you set boundaries, or else the boundaries don't work. So it's just like with a child. If you set a boundary with your child and you don't follow up with it, you tell them, if you don't clean up your room, then you can't go outside. And then they don't clean their room, but you still let them go outside, you don't hold strong to that boundary, guess what's going to continue to happen? They're going to continue to not clean their room because you're going to continue to let them go outside. And the moment that you don't let them go outside because that was your boundary is the moment that they're going to make sure that that room is clean so that they can go outside. It works the same way with adults. When you set that boundary and when you make it known that you're not accepting that behavior, you're not accepting any of those things that you used to accept, then two things will happen. One of two things. They'll either respect it and you'll see some change, or they will leave. Especially if you are disciplined and you stand in your boundary. If you stand tall in that boundary and you don't give any wiggle room, that's what will happen. So, but the hard part about that is that, sometimes, because if you don't have, sometimes when you don't have self-worth, you're thinking, this is it for me, this is all I deserve, or, will I be alone, I'm afraid of being alone, or, those types of things. But baby, let me tell you, I don't know if you've seen that My 600 Pound Life, but every last one of them people, most of the time, have a relationship. They be in a relationship and they be mean. They be mean to them people and they still be loving on them. They still be cooking for them. They still be, child. That's all I'm gonna say about that. But you get what I'm saying, right? So there should not be a fear of being alone. I get it. I totally get it because I've been there. I've been there before. I was married, then I got divorced. I was single for a number of years before I got married again or before I met my current husband. So I get it. I understand there is a fear that's there, but you have to know that who you are. You have to know that, there's somebody out there for you. You know, you have to be confident in that. And you have to know that you will find love again if that's what you desire. So you can't just allow any type of behavior just because you have a fear of being alone or a fear that the person will leave or they're going to be mad at me. The guilt comes along with setting boundaries too. Sometimes when you with somebody that's toxic, they going to manipulate you. They going to gaslight you. They going to make you feel like it's your fault. If you wouldn't have set this boundary or if you wouldn't have done this, then we would have been okay. Or, it's so many things that come along with it. So you have to be ready for those things as well. So that's why I say if you are setting boundaries, you have to be disciplined enough to stand tall in those boundaries. So it takes practice. So it's not going to happen overnight. Number three, lack of confidence. So again, like I said, these things all tie into each other. You don't have self-worth, respect, or love for yourself, then you're not going to be able to set the boundaries that you need to be able to set in order to have someone to respect you. Because if you don't respect yourself, how can you expect somebody else to do the same? So, lack of confidence. Confidence comes when you have done the work. You have spent the time with yourself. You know what you want. You know what you like. You know who you are. You know what your worth is. You know what your value is, and you're confident in that. So when you don't have those things, it is very, very hard for you to stand up for yourself, to advocate for yourself, and to be treated the way that you want to be treated and the way that you deserve to be treated. So when you have that low self-confidence, you sometimes I've heard people say, this is what I deserve, or I guess this is it for me. This is all I can get. Really fearful again that they will be alone, or those are the things that come up when you have that lack of self-confidence. And when you look at all of those things and you look at where that comes from, there's also another place that that can come from. I can't name them all, but another one would be if you were in a relationship with someone and it started off, because it don't always start out bad. Let me tell you, it don't always start out bad. It don't always start out manipulative. It don't always start out toxic. It don't always start off like that. But sometimes it turns into that. And we just can't believe that the love that we had, the person that they used to be, is the person that's hurting us. So you continue to stay hoping, chasing that high that you had when things were good, when they're continuously showing you who they are now. Because what we have to realize is that people do change, people evolve, a lot of times for the better, hopefully for the better, but sometimes it's not for the better. They learn that if they treat you a certain type of way, you're going to take it. And when they see that you're going to take it, they take advantage of you and then they manipulate you. And then so it can be a domino effect of those things. And when that happens, you have to be able to address those things, and you have to be able to, you know, determine where you go from there. And that can be hard too because of the attachment. We have been programmed to be so attached to these outcomes, to, relationships, and, so it's hard to let go. But when it's good and then all of a sudden it turns bad and you continue to stay in that, that is what can also diminish your self-worth, diminish your confidence, diminish your love for yourself, because you could have came into it real confident. But if somebody demeans you long enough and disrespects you long enough and discards you, or treats you just like trash, if they do that long enough, that's going to plummet your self-esteem, your confidence, your love for yourself. And then you'll start to, just think that this is just what it is. This is what I got to go through to prove my love. No, baby, you don't have to go through that to prove your love. No, nobody does. And nobody deserves that. So there are some questions that I want you to ask yourself. The first question is those things that I have mentioned, those three things: the lack of self-worth, respect, and love, the lack of self-esteem, the lack of boundaries. Is that you? Do you find yourself in any of those categories? Question number two: how did you get here? How exactly did you get here? Was it something that was good and then it turned into that? Or was it, and be honest with yourself, or was it something that you allowed before you got into the relationship or early on in the relationship, and that's just what you thought it should be, so that's how it's been the whole time? You have to really be honest with yourself when you asking yourself these questions, because if you're not going to get out of it just lying to yourself. I got to be brutally honest with yourself. The last question: is this how you want to continue your life? Is this how you want to continue living? Hopefully the answer is no. Hopefully the answer is no. Because when you just give up and just continue to settle, you've already lost who you are. You've already conformed to whatever that relationship is. Excuse me. And you don't have to continue your life like that, regardless of what anybody says. Some people may be afraid because they have kids, they have, maybe have assets together, like a house together and bills together and all of those things. And you might be scared of, the ramifications of that. But the process of detaching yourself from all of those things is worth going through in order to have your peace, your joy on the inside, and to rediscover who you are. Because you'll look up one day and you will have lived a whole life for somebody else. You will have lived a whole life that you were miserable in. So I implore you to think about those questions that I asked and try to figure out where do you fall within that. And if you fall any place in between, or if it sounds familiar, or if it evoked an emotion inside of you, you need to do some hard thinking and 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 think about, is this what you want? When you lose yourself in relationships, when it's toxic, and you just don't know who you are anymore, because you just, maybe you were that person, that you was that girl, or you was that one, but then all the things that you went through, you ain't that one no more. You don't feel that confidence anymore. You really don't feel like nothing, because they treat you like nothing. So I've created a video series and workbook to help you start that journey of rediscovery for yourself, because it can be hard. And I know there's a lot of people that don't know where to start. If you're one of those people that don't know where to start with rediscovering who you are, so that you can be that confident, self respecting, boundary setting woman that takes responsibility and ownership of her life and her happiness and her joy, you want to be that person, this video series and workbook is for you. I will go ahead and link it down below in the description box so that you can grab it and go ahead and start that journey, because now is the perfect time. We're getting ready to go into 2026, and you don't have to wait until the new year in order to get started. Now is the perfect time. The time that you realize that you need it is the time to get started. So, again, this is episode number 1 of season 2. I'm so glad to be back. Y'all let me know down in the comments, where you fall within this. Does any of this sound familiar for you? Do you find yourself in this toxicity and not really knowing who you are, because you've given in to a toxic relationship, or given all that you have to this relationship, and you're not getting anything out of it? You're not happy, you're just going through the motions? Let me know down in the comments. If you have any questions, let me know also. I do have my community support group coming soon, so stay tuned for that as well. And that is it for today for episode 1. And we will be back on Sunday, next Sunday. So it's going to be episodes every Sunday for season 2, just like it was for season 1. All right. See you in the next episode. Bye.